Alright, hello everybody. So it is May 1st, which means it is time for my April movie wrap up. I watched quite a few movies in April actually. So, first up, a lot of VHS tapes, and a lot of things I'm gonna have to put up a poster for. First up, I watched When a Stranger Calls, which came out in 1979. This is like, if you think of that old urban legend where like the call is coming from inside the house, that is this. It's about this babysitter who one day she's babysitting and she's hanging out downstairs when somebody keeps giving her calls like, hey, I'm checking on the kids. And she doesn't, because it's like the parents said that the kids were supposed to sleep through all night. And he keeps calling her. Eventually she calls the police and the kids are murdered. And so then it kind of skips forward a little bit, and she's now, an adult. She has her own kids. It's an interesting one. It's got some weird pacing, I will say, because it's I don't know. It's just weirdly paced. It is fun though. There are some weird side plots that never really go anywhere. Like there's this woman who who uh who just is in there, sort of like that the killer tries to be friends with, and then like nothing really ever comes of that. But I don't know. Either way, it was a fun one. I don't know. I enjoyed my time. Then I watched To Kill a Mockingbird, which came out in 1962. I watched this with my 10th grade students because I just read the book. Each of my classes gets to watch one movie. Out of all the books they read, I think they normally we went through. I think each class went through 4 or 5 novels. They get to watch one movie, and 10th grade got to watch To Kill a Mockingbird. I watched this when I was in 10th grade. After reading the book in class. I mean, it's a decent movie. To Kill a Mockingbird has never been my favorite book, classic or otherwise. I just don't see it. It's just not very interesting to me. And I know there are a lot better topics on the books on the topic. But movie's all right. Gregory Peck does a fantastic job. Did watch that. If for some reason you don't know what To Kill a Mockingbird is about, it is the story of a young girl whose father takes place in around the 30s. And her father is a public defender, and he is appointed to defend a black man who has been accused of raping a white girl. Obviously, it is a story of wrongful conviction, because otherwise it wouldn't be a classic. So there's that. Then I watched with the 7th graders Nightjohn, which came out in 1996. This movie, it's very different from the book. It's another one that I read the book. But the movie is about basically this young slave girl, and a new slave shows up on the plantation, and he is teaching them how to read. It's a very intense movie. It's a good book. It's a very short book. It's like 90 pages long. The movie somehow stretches that to 2 hours by adding in a lot of stuff. But I mean, it's good. It's a good movie. It's interesting. It's well done, well acted, decent time. Well, then I watched what was possibly one of my favorite movies that I've watched this year, and that is The Frighteners, which came out in 1996 as well. Got this cool cover there. But The Frighteners, this is actually a Peter Jackson film of west of Memphis, and I suppose Lord of the Rings fame, if you want to go that far. But it is about Michael J. Fox, who is he's like a half con artist. Like he actually does have a connection with the spirit realm, but he has these ghost friends that fake it so they can make money off of doing exorcisms and stuff like that. But now there's something actually kind of weird going on, where people are dying of random what appear to be heart attacks, and it kind of jumps back between that, and then also years ago there was a massacre in a hospital, and it was so good. It was so well paced. It was so funny. It was genuinely creepy at times. Like, they did have a flashback to the massacre at the hospital, and it was genuinely creepy. I loved it so much. Like, I just had so much fun with it. It is a horror movie, but it's kind of fun too. It's not a straight up horror comedy in the raunchy sense, but it is a horror comedy in the way that there are some genuinely funny moments. It's got a lot of heart. I just loved it. I just had so much fun with this one. Like I said, this is probably one of my favorite movies I've watched so far this year, if not my favorite. Looking at the movies I've watched this year, but it was a good time. Then I rewatched 10 Things I Hate About You, which came out in 1999. This is, of course, the teen melodrama version of The Taming of the Shrew, with Heath Ledger in it. I enjoy this movie a lot. I really like the Joseph Gordon-Levitt character sometimes just slipping into Shakespearean English, and everybody around him just being like, "Are you doing okay?" I think that's hilarious. But yeah, no, I genuinely enjoy the main romances. I genuinely enjoy the characters. I love it's very fun. It's very bright. It's very, it's just a lot. It's just a lot of fun. And like, I love Shakespeare. I enjoy this movie. I don't know anybody who doesn't like this movie who also likes Shakespeare. If you do, you're wrong. It's a fun time. I enjoy it. Then for showing, I actually got to watch this one twice because I had to show the sophomores and the juniors the documentary Chasing the Dragon, which came out, I believe, in 2016. This is the closest I could find to a date when it did come out. This is an FBI put out documentary about opioid abuse, whether that be prescription opioids or heroin. And we just had to show it to our kids so that they didn't do heroin. The juniors apparently had already seen it, and so I spent most of my time sitting in the back with the problem junior and having a very serious conversation with him about the entire thing. But the sophomores were quiet, at least. So it's just a short documentary about that. It was okay. It was decent. It was kind of interesting. I'd never seen it before. It was alright. Then I watched The Mummy Returns, which came out in 2001. This is the sequel to The Mummy with, Brendan Fraser, all that jazz. But this lacked a lot of the charm of the first movie. I mean, it's still fun, and it's still got really interesting moments to it, but the first movie had such a bright charm to it that this one just didn't get. Maybe that's because this one was just, like, lit darker. Like, the first one, if I'm remembering correctly, it just was so bright and fun all the time, and this one just kind of didn't have that. I did enjoy some parts of it. Like, I really liked Jonathan and Jonathan's banter with the O'Connell child, because they do have a kid in this one. I really like that banter. That was kind of fun. Like, the side characters were all pretty much the same and still pretty fun. It was just the main two just didn't have the spark that they had in the first one. So I don't know, it was okay. In this one, their kid gets kidnapped. They're trying to raise a Scorpion King, who was played by The Rock. And in the beginning, it's kind of interesting. At the end, it is the literal worst CGI in the world because it's from 2001. Overall, like I said, it just lacked the charm of the original. It's not a bad movie by any means, but it's just not near as fun. And finally, for the freshman class, we watched The Yearling, which came out in 1946. This is the story of a young boy who lives in Florida just after the Civil War, and he really desperately wants a pet, and his mom keeps saying no because, like, we don't have enough money for that, and stop bringing in wild animals because she's a rational human being. And eventually, though, he gets to the point where he ends up getting a fawn, and this fawn is great at first, but it causes problems because it is a wild animal and they do not need to have it in the house. It was okay. I mean, there were some moments that were just really weird. The acting from the child actor was interesting sometimes. Gregory Peck again showed up. He was the paw, and he was very young. I mean, this movie's from 1946, so he was very young. Like, he was, I didn't recognize him at first, but he did a good job. The acting was pretty decent for most of the adults, at least. The freshmen really liked it, which is interesting because there were moments where they were, like, genuinely into it, which is kind of interesting. But these plus those other movies are what I watched in April. That is all I have for today. I will talk to you later, and goodbye.